few minutes to talk about banking collapses and the possible future ahead of us. First of all, why did these banks collapse? We had the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, we had two other banks collapse. And the reason for this is a combination of higher interest rates, the bonds that they were holding, the paper assets that they were holding, as banks usually do as investments, their original low interest yields were worth a lot less. But because of the bank's incompetence, instead of unloading those from their balance sheets, they decided to keep them on their balance sheets. And because of the regulations associated with Dodd-Frank, they were classified as, non-essential for the bank's operation. They have different tiers. I can't remember the exact terminology, but basically, they were allowed to hold them on their balance sheet while their assets decreased, and they lost more and more capacity to cover depositors' funds. So while this is happening, they became increasingly insolvent, and instead of paying attention to any of this on a risk management standpoint, they decided to fund their ultra liberal politics. So that's why a lot of people are not really sad to see those particular individuals go. The problem is that there are a lot of hardworking people. There are startup companies, and then other people that are linked to that bank, maybe not directly, but indirectly, whether it be payroll or whether it be banks' assets, with other banks, other regional banks that are going to take a hit potentially. I mean, you think of small businesses that have more than $250,000 associated with it. You think of, individuals, entrepreneurs, etc. So it's not something to necessarily celebrate, although, maybe seeing these individuals that were running the bank fall, it's a good thing to see those go the wayside, and hopefully their incompetence will be fully exposed. Possibly criminal charges might come onto them. But anyway, with that aside, the governments, as any of you are paying attention, are working on a cryptocurrency, like a government coin. This was implemented in Nigeria. Now the people in Nigeria are resisting. There's riots in Lagos, and the capital city in Nigeria. People are not willing to take this government coin. What is entirely possible, and something that Alex Jones put out in the last couple of days, is that since those deposits of over $250,000 were not insured, the government might come out with a government coin to say, we'll cover your losses with our government coin. And this is how they introduce it. To a certain extent, this can be successful. People, especially in liberal areas like California, in New York City, where you have, big amounts of money flowing around, plus people are of the mentality that they will accept something like this. You could see something like this take hold regionally and then try to spread throughout the whole country. This is probably their technique of taking control of the entire financial system, where they have total control with government coin. This way, the IRS can track everything, every purchase you make. They can criminalize things a lot easier this way because they essentially just have total control over you. And it's a system that you're not going to be able to opt out of. Now, I expect the people, especially in the more red-pilled parts of the United States, and then potentially maybe in parts of Europe, will rebel against this, and they will not accept it. People will probably begin using cash again to protest this system. I just know personally a lot of people, myself included, that won't opt into this system. Of course, the system will probably try to force itself upon them and me, but we're not going to just take this lying down. In fact, more and more the red pill movement is taking control of local governments here in the United States. So we could go back to a system that we used to have prior to the full implementation of the Federal Reserve System, back when we used to have treasury notes and gold certificates, for example. We used to issue currency more locally. We used to have state banks and local banks issue currency. That was all done away with. We might return to a system like that again. So that would be very interesting. In places like Australia, which I have a couple of people I talk to, that country doesn't seem to be as red-pilled. I'm sure there'll be some resistance to it, but I expect countries like New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Canada to just completely follow this system within, a relatively short time, even within a couple of years. I think, regardless of whether you like or hate Donald Trump, regardless if you think that Trump is a control opposition, or he was the real deal that just was too stupid to pick the right people for cabinet positions, the very fact is that Trump did slow down their system. There was a lot of things in their agenda that they didn't get done because of Trump. And because of that, post-Trump, the system has been marching at full speed to try to get their system in line. And because of this, they've been moving very quickly. That's why they're burning down food processing plants. That's why they're announcing food made from bugs. That's why, they're just at warp speed with all these things. And that in itself has awakened people. So I made this in a previous video, but the very concept of resisting means that the system, in order to meet their 2030 goal, has to move even faster on the back end, so that the resistance is victory in the long term. The fact that they have to move so fast is the very thing that's awakening people. So anyway, those are my thoughts. They're going to come out with a government coin. Don't take it. And the resistance is victory. Even though it doesn't seem like it at first, the very act of resistance is going to cause them to act in ways that are even dumber in the long run. And that is the best asset to the red pill movement. That makes even more red pill people.